Hey guys, I'm Crimson Child from the Crimson Children Collective. I'm here to give you guys a tutorial breaking down this new song that I'm working on with Shervin Official. His link should be on screen right now. Go check him out, he's super dope. And basically what we're going to be talking about in this tutorial is how to use one main sample, core sample, whether it be a live recording or something really stretched out and resampled, and how to make that the core basis of a song and to build a whole track around it. The sample that I got sent over by Shervin, this is a live recording of a traditional Iranian instrument. It's like an ethnic stringed instrument and it has a really cool feeling. So this is the original sample, unwarped, nothing, no extra processing or anything on it. This is what it sounds like. So I'm not going to play the whole thing for you guys, but it's basically like that. Really cool, but also quite abstract and kind of hard to get a kind of feel from it. I started with that, and then the first thing I did was pitch it up to semitones. So this is the version that I'm going to be working on. Is you can already see all these warp markers in here, just to kind of warp it to a certain speed. We're working at 95 BPM right now. And just wanted to get it so it has some kind of pace. I've called this note as our root note, because this felt like a good downbeat note, so I built everything around that. So if we look at this clip here and turn on metronome, so I didn't do it exact because there's like a cool feel to it being like a little bit off time, makes it feel more live. Obviously I'm not like going in and putting warp markers on each of these transients and pushing them around. I'm just doing the main ideas for them, because you still want your sample to have a lot of character, right? So basically doing that the whole way through. After 8 bars we have this. Does the same thing kind of again. A lot of things I had to stretch a lot, so to complement for that group here, there's a fair amount of processing. This OTT helps increase the tail a little bit, bring up the highs, some overall compression. Not that much stuff happening here. And then this thing, this is called a tail generator. It's like a rack I made. This is just for the end of it, so we'll see. I didn't really have a good way of resolving it going into the build, so I basically grabbed this little clip, which is just one of the root note, right? And just kind of tacked it on at the end and warped things around, and then automated this tail generator up. So what the tail generator is, it's just a long tail reverb, which is one of the presets from the reverb in Ableton, and then a ping pong delay, and then it sounds like this at the end. And you'll notice there's a little duck there because as of here in a second, there's an impact there that happens as well. So basically the way I've structured this track out, currently it's just an intro, build, drop, just to keep it simple for you guys. Of course, starts with a sample. I want it to set the mood for the song. So just kind of some ambient noise into the sample. The important thing to say here is you really want the sample to shine and to live on its own. I mean, obviously your creativity is your own, you can do whatever you want, but my style generally is, if I'm using a really unique sample, a really unique sound, I want to give it some space to be able to live on its own and kind of occupy its own space, right? So these first 4 bars, just a sample with some ambient noise in the background, and then when it comes after that, I bring in a few things. I bring in a sub, I bring in this respace, which fills up a lot of the low end, and then this synth starts to come in, which I believe is like a saxophone or something like that. Let's listen. So this fills under the low end, right? With that respace. Okay, so now this is what I wanted to talk about next. If you want to build melodic ideas around your sample, there's a few ways of doing that. The first and most obvious, but not the best method sometimes, is Ableton's convert harmony to MIDI, convert melody to MIDI. I would do that in the case of if this was like a piano loop or something like that, like chords like that, but this is pretty abstract, right? It's kind of moving up and down. So the way I felt it out a little bit is I took this respace, which is this is what the patch sounds like. It's one of my favorite sounds. I actually use it pretty much every song. So if we go into CRM, I'm not going to go super in depth on this patch, but here it is. If you want to copy, I don't think there's any, yeah, there's some effects there if you want to copy this patch. But the main controls here are the macros. The first two, detune and wide, don't do that much. They usually stay around the same amount, but it's the cutoff macro that is really interesting. So here we got the cutoff macro. Let me open this up. And then I also use volume automate things down as the cutoff comes up, because when the cutoff comes up, it gets quite loud. Basically, the notes I did with this, I just dragged them in by ear, and I'm kind of trying to I'm not trying to exactly copy the melody of this sample. I'm trying to kind of build a new foundation and give it a new mood. So I found the root note, which is D sharp. That's the main reason why I pitched up the sample 2 semitones, because making a track in C sharp, it's really hard to get good sub in that range. The usual kind of good range is between D and G. So D sharp was a kind of good, it's still low, but you have better sub than you do at C sharp. So anyways, root note is D sharp. And I put a lot of portamento on it, so every time it starts a new note, it's gonna have a long glide, and that's just a creative decision. Sounds really good on respaces, like here. There's like a portamento between there, as well as this kind of a slow attack. So then it kind of glides up, and then it comes down to this second root note. The reason why it's good to do all that warping stuff that I was talking about before is because you can separate different kind of notes into different sections, right? Which sounds obvious, but a lot of people don't do this. So let's just listen to this in the sample. It's all around D sharp here. See, I'm not copying this. I'm not trying to do like a intricate melody with the bass. I'm just setting the foundation for the track. And then it comes up, which it doesn't have to, but it just adds like a cool kind of lift, and then coming down to this note. And then up one. Just like that, we've turned this super abstract sample into basically a loop. We can just loop this, and because we've set the mood with this, we can kind of just loop this and put whatever pieces of this sample above it, and it'll still sound good to our ears. Taking it one step further, we have this guy. What is this? This is, I believe this is strings. Like kind of like an Eastern kind of strings. These patches, the sax, the strings, and this one that we're going to talk about, which is like a flugelhorn. All these are from Echo Soundworks pack, by the way. Not a sponsored video, but go check them out. They make really cool orchestral serum packs for those who can't afford contact like me. So there's this flugelhorn as well. And you'll notice that the horn is panned right and this string is panned left. And then these are playing, I believe, yeah, okay, a fifth up. So they're doing the harmony above it. You'll hear when it comes in, it adds a really cool kind of richness to it. Another really important thing to note is we now have a sense of rhythm with this kind of low pass snare that comes in, as well as in the effects section down here, we have this big impact that I use, as well as some cashmere exhaust, which is just white noise. So this helps us give the listener a sense of, okay, something else is coming that's going to be more electronic, right? A lot of the problem that I hear when people are using interesting samples is they kind of separate the song into two sections, like interesting sample and then like normal track. And I'm all about these spaces in between where you're kind of melding the two sides together. And it's really hard to get right, but once you get it, it feels really good because fusion of different genres is what is going to make it stick in people's minds because it's something fresh. Yeah, this string and this horn comes in. Obviously, I could have just taken a string and panned it both ways, but this is a more interesting way of kind of offsetting the two sides. It's because one of them is a string at like 23 left, the other one's a horn at 18, so it creates a sense of an actual symphony kind of coming in. As well as this kind of little embellishment that I added in there that makes it even more kind of Eastern ethnic sounding. Anyways, moving on from here, if we go into the build section, you'll hear it gets even more amped up into going into the electronic part. This instrument, the main sample, kind of dies out and we start to bring in our own elements. I'm just gonna take you through the drop, and because even though the drop doesn't have any of the samples from the intro, because we had these kinds of sections in here to meld both sides together, it doesn't sound completely out of place. So I'll just play it for you guys.